Greetings, all! Today, we will be examining the common bug-type Pokemon Scatterbug, its relatively common evolution Spewpa, the two collectively known as the Scatterdust Pokémon, and its equally common final bug-flying type evolution Vivillon, the Scale Pokémon. While they might not look to be the biggest threats to fear for most, the members of the Scatterbug family are still unique creatures that can make a name for themselves in battle alongside other young bug-type Pokemon families.
Scatterbug have dark grey, tube-like segmented bodies with a series of 6 small sharp brown legs used for locomotion, as well as a light grey spot on the end of their abdomen and a large, rounded head with large eyes that have black square-shaped pupils and brown sclera. They further have a series of 3 long white antennae on the top of their head, and a collar of white toxic fluff around their neck, with black square-shaped speckles on it. Their evolved forms, Spewpa, have the same general body color, but lack antennae entirely, and have a brown crest mark on the top of their head, and a pair of small brown spots right above their eyes. Every other part of the body is covered in a thick, hairy white cocoon, lined with black, red, and yellow squarish particles that can be released for defense against predators. The final evolution, Vivillon, have small bodies with a white, grey, and black striped motif to their color pattern, and a small pair of rounded black upper limbs and a pair of longer striped lower limbs, the heads being adorned with eyes with 3 white lenses each and black sclera, and a pair of long antennae with rounded striped sensory organs at the very end. The major highlight of their form, however, are their massive wings, which are very thin, reflect light like glass, and come in a wide variety of color patterns depending upon their habitat.
The members of the Scatterbug family are unique among bug-type Pokemon in that they are the only ones known to have a relatively global distribution across the world.
The reasons for this are still a great mystery, but it seems that the culprit may ultimately fall to their unique anatomy and development pattern. The Scatterbug family is believed to be very closely related to the members of the Caterpie family, even more so than the Wormwood family. This is noted in regards to not only the moveset they learn naturally while as a larva, but more specifically, the moves they manage to learn as adults. In the case of most other young insect Pokemon, temperature is the ultimate factor when considering environmental preferences, as many species cannot handle cold very well, nor can they handle extreme heat. As such, these more extreme environments tend to be avoided as much as possible by Pokemon like Butterfree or Beedrill. In the case of the Scatterbug family, however, they are actually able to regulate their body temperature thanks to a toxic spore-like dust that naturally forms on their skin like a protective coat. With this powder in tow, these species are able to raise or lower their internal body temperature in order to better adapt to a given environment, no matter how inhospitable it might otherwise seem. While they are not commonly found in Japan, possibly due to the dominance of many other similar bug-type families, Scatterbug and its evolutions are found in just about every other part of the globe, even on the edges of Antarctica during the warmer summer months, and are known to have diets that vary widely depending upon where they live. It is a relief on that note, then, that these creatures are not pests. In fact, they are recognized as the friendliest of bug-type Pokemon, and are completely unafraid of humans and other Pokemon, minus the few species that actually consider them to be prey. This is uniquely reflected in their capacity to inherit the Friend Guard ability as a hidden ability, something that is otherwise unlikely to be believed, though the use of their insectoid anatomy to grant Scatterbug and Vivillon access to shield dust and compound eyes as base abilities, and Spewpa's shed skin as the only base ability, also makes plenty of sense. As far as the combat performance goes in the case of Vivillon, these insectoids suffer the same issues as many of the bug-type Pokemon that evolve quickly, in that they are not that powerful, though they do at least have base HP, special attack, and speed stats that are above average for a fully evolved bug-type Pokemon, so while they might underperform completely as fully evolved flying-type Pokemon, they are not totally without their merit.
Scatterbug follow the same basic outline as many of the young bug-type Pokemon species, in that they are fairly weak, open to predation, and are unable to defend themselves for the most part against the attacks of others.
However, they are nonetheless distinct and capable of surviving predator attacks as a result of the toxic spore-like black powder that they produce in their bodies throughout their life. This disgusting concoction is made from a combination of different toxins that are ingested from toxic plants before being mixed internally and then excreted out into the outer exoskeleton as a liquid, where it then hardens and dries up to form a powdery coat on their bodies. Aside from tasting very nasty and being capable of instilling indigestion, if concentrated enough, this toxic powder can even be thrown at a target in a modified form of the stun spore technique, enabling these otherwise harmless insects to defend themselves with something more than just a simple tackle attack. Even so, this powder does come at a cost, as it takes considerable amounts of energy in order to produce. As a result, these creatures tend to evolve later in life than their contemporaries, and are thus stuck in a weak larval form longer than most other related bug types. Thankfully, the powder itself serves to help extend the likelihood of their survival, so it is not surprising that these small beasts have managed to populate just about every part of the world.
Once they manage to store enough energy in their body to begin the process of metamorphism, Scatterbug cover most of their body in a thick, sticky cocoon of string that quickly hardens upon coming into contact with the open air, forming a strong, airtight, and sharply furred cocoon that is practically impenetrable without strong piercing strikes.
Unlike most other species of young bug types that go through the same evolutionary process, Spewpa keep the upper part of their head exposed so they can actually still see and smell their environment. This is critical for the survival of these creatures, as they are unable to really do anything other than protect themselves defensively, leaving slow but steady movement as the only real way of avoiding trouble. Despite this, they are still rather active, roaming the lands as they please as they slowly gather energy for evolution. If confronted while hiding in the shadows of large trees and thickets, they will bristle at the hairs covering their bodies as a sign of aggression, and in turn a warning. If the warning is not heeded, these beasts will then use their modified stun sport technique to paralyze predators like Rufflet, giving them the chance to actually escape with their life safely. Even if these creatures are attacked directly, they can utilize a hardened technique to protect their bodies, which really isn't so much of a concern as the strong cocoon they are encased in is actually somewhat flexible, allowing it to absorb the kinetic energy from physical strikes and redistribute it enough to heavily weaken the effects of the blow. If worst comes to worst though, these beasts can still keep themselves safe with an impromptu protect technique which they learn immediately after evolving, though this course of action is usually only taken into last resort since the move tends to not work very well if used consecutively in battle. Overall, despite the fact that they are relatively unable to attack very well in their current state, these creatures still have a significant advantage over most other fast-evolving bug-type families, a fact reinforced again by the otherwise global distribution.
Upon reaching their adult stage and escaping from the Spewpa cocoon, these creatures transform into beautiful butterflies, whose sleek body shape and brilliantly colored wings attract artists and Pokemon lovers across the planet. Plus, they learn the Gust attack immediately afterwards.
The most interesting thing about their color pattern, however, is the fact that it tends to differ dramatically depending upon what part of the world they were actually born in as Scatterbug. The specific climate that these creatures develop in is recorded in the black spore-like powder the Scatterbug are covered with, and as they evolve and become Spewpa, that powder is ingrained on the inside of their cocoon. It is then reabsorbed into the wings of the adult as it emerges from its cocoon, changing its color pattern in response to different chemical and elemental properties found in the soil, air, and available diet of its native land. As of this moment, there are a total of 20 different patterns recognized among the species, and the environment they represent can range anywhere from warm meadows, to cold forests, to tundra, to desert, and so on. These color patterns do not have a real impact on the stats of these creatures, but it is nonetheless the most aesthetically pleasing part of their entire bodies. In the wild, Vivillon feed on nectar from flowers and are generally harmless. Even when attacked, these creatures are more likely to simply fly off, though they can defend themselves immediately after evolution with a relatively potent struggle bug attack. Aside from this, these creatures are very similar in terms of the moves they learn to Pokemon like Beautifly and especially Butterfree, though they're the only one able to use their wings effectively enough in battle to learn the devastating Hurricane attack. It is noted as well that Vivillon are capable of defending themselves more effectively than either as a result of their signature move, the Powder technique. Much like Scatterbug, these creatures are able to release spore-like patches of scales from their wings that can cover an opponent in brightly colored, highly flammable, corrosive compounds. While this does no real damage to the target when used, if the opponent tries to use a fire-type move while the powder is on them, it will ignite violently and deal massive damage to them equal to 25% of their maximum HP. This move may only have a limited range of uses, but it nonetheless represents the only known case of a bug type learning a move capable of completely turning fire-type offenses to their favor in battle.
I can say that I might be just a tad biased when it comes to bug-type families and how appealing they can be for me, but I think I'm likely justified in my adoration for these fun-loving and gorgeous creatures in the case of the Scatterbug family. Scatterbug are just plain adorable in their juvenile forms, and they have a lot going for them in defense, as access to stun sports at an early age can actually make them pretty hard for many to deal with if they can't be knocked out quickly. It takes a bit longer than you might otherwise expect for them to evolve into Spewpa, but once again, this is also likely worth it, as getting access to protect as well as harden for defensive moves puts them a step above many of the similar cocoon Pokemon, and in turn can make them perfect for bug catchers looking for something a bit more resourceful at a young age. And of course, I can't neglect the gorgeous appearances and powers of their adult form Vivillon. Not only do the wing patterns look absolutely gorgeous and a seriously brilliant sight to behold, but they can actually fight back pretty effectively as well with a bit of artificial help. And while they likely can't make the best use of attacks like Hurricane late in life, it does give them so noble viability. Add on to that a special move that can make fire types think twice about trying to scorch them, and you've got one interesting family that can fight back a lot harder and more effectively than some might otherwise give them credit for.
Though they might not always be seen as the safest of creatures to always be around and gain a close contact with, the members of the Scatterbug family are still useful beasts that can spring some nasty surprises on opponents that might not otherwise be paying attention to them. It may take them a bit longer to get to adulthood compared to Pokemon like Caterpie and Wurmple, but the extra bit of weight can be worth it for the specialty powers these creatures bring to the table.
Just do yourself a favor and make sure not to get too close to them, even if they might look pretty. Their species names exist for a reason, and you might find that any attempt at direct close contact might give you a hacking fit that is unlikely to go away so easily once the toxic powder enters into your lungs and bloodstream.
Thank you all for watching this video. It always brings me great joy to see others enjoying the work I do to try and make the world of Pokemon and the fascinating creatures that lay inside of it feel as real as they possibly can. If you really enjoy my work, please feel free to leave a comment and subscribe, as I always do my best to respond to any and all comments that are left on my videos. In addition, if you wish to learn more about my work and help support it, you can find links to my Patreon page, as well as email and other contact information to my work on DeviantArt in the video description down below. Furthermore, you can find a link to my Discord server there as well if you'd like to get a first glimpse at what videos are coming up next and converse with other fans of the world of Pokemon. Thank you for taking the time to watch this, and have a wonderful rest of your day.